Have you ever wondered what it could be like to challenge the entire body of the European Union? It was not everyone's cup of tea, but the newborn Catherine Chow had other plans. In 1980, China was on the cusp of panic, with the fear of overpopulation hanging on their heads.
China.
The factory of the world.
The world's most populous country is facing a crisis.
In the end, the Chinese government enforced the one-child policy on the public. It remained intact until 2015. China was making inroads on all four fronts on the global map, but this policy was a huge setback for the urban population. The question is, what happened to those who didn't comply with this policy? Well, for starters, they were starved of the government's benefits to the people. Further, the parents weren't allowed to register them as citizens. They were either forced to raise children illegally and were deprived of basic rights for child number 2 and onwards, or were forced to abort or sterilize before birth. In short, it was brutal for the citizens. Many families stayed under the radar and raised more than one kid and were leading their lives. However, one mother didn't feel that way. Her name was Man Levette Chen. In 2000, Mrs. Levette Chen was already a mother to a beautiful daughter and got pregnant again. That was the time when she took matters into her own hands. Mrs. Levette Chen and her husband were employed in a chemical company that also had a presence in the UK. So they decided to travel to the UK when Mrs. Levette Chen was 5 months pregnant. Although the chemical company was allowed to conduct business in the UK, the workers were mostly locals. But Mrs. Levette Chen and her husband were migrants. That means they couldn't get British citizenship. Mrs. Levette Chen wanted her child to have Western citizenship, free from all these restrictions that the country imposed on its public. We often talk about parents sacrificing everything for the sake of their children. Mrs. Levette was not from an outside breed. She was just a parent, worried about her child's future. For that, even the likes of the British and the European Union didn't mean anything. British citizenship policy wasn't an easy fortress to breach for the mother, but she still had hope. However, as things had it, when there's a will, there's a way. She found out about Northern Ireland. A little backstory: the island of Ireland was initially part of the United Kingdom. However, many populations on those lands wanted autonomy and independence. So, in some time, the southern part of the island became the Republic of Ireland, while Northern Ireland remained part of the UK. But that didn't make things easier for everyone, until the Good Friday Agreement was signed in 1998. The Good Friday Agreement, also known as the Belfast Agreement, affirmed the right of all individuals born in Northern Ireland to identify as Irish, British, or both, and to hold both British and Irish citizenship. However, with the 27th Amendment of the Constitution of Ireland in 2004, the automatic entitlement to Irish citizenship was limited to those born in Ireland to at least one Irish citizen parent. For us, it doesn't mean much, but for Mrs. Levette Chen, it meant a loophole and a chance to secure her child's future. Still, it required some heavy lifting. Then, 7 months pregnant, Mrs. Levette Chen took the flight to Belfast and on September 16, 2000, gave birth to her beautiful daughter Catherine in Northern Ireland. After recovering from labour, she immediately filed the paperwork to achieve Irish citizenship. But, as was always the case, she was a single woman fighting against the whole ministry. She did succeed in one thing. A few days old, Catherine was a Northern Ireland citizen and belonged to the European Union. Imagine that! One problem is that EU citizens had the right to live in any territory, including the UK. Of course, this was before Brexit. But there was a bigger problem. Mrs. Levette Chen was livid to find that she was not allowed to live with her Irish national daughter. And as things stood, Mrs. Levette Chen's application for citizenship was rejected. Mrs. Levette Chen wasn't going down without a fight. So, she sued the Home Secretary of the British government. Although the legal implications for this case were significant, the severity of her situation made the whole fiasco public. The whole idea of an immigrant mother fighting for her and her child's right to remain in an adopted country sounded somewhat selfish. After all, she wasn't a citizen, but also trying to abuse the system. You could say that it was a classic she said they said. It became complicated when it was highlighted that she wanted the right to live in the UK, but had no intention of staying there. That brings us to the next piece of the puzzle: China's one-child policy. Her entire case relied on the ruling of the EU law, but that was still a big what-if. Her case had to be referred to the EU courts via the UK legal system. While lower courts could technically refer the case to the European Court of Justice, they never did, and would instead escalate through the UK system first, which could take years. Mrs. Lavette Chen took her chance and it paid off. The judge assigned her case to the European Group Court, or EGC. EGC affirmed that the young Catherine had the right to freedom of movement, and Mrs. Chen should be given permission to live with her daughter in the UK. It was a giant leap forward for families from lower-income countries to give a better life to their children. Surely Mrs. Lavette Chen thought the same. This wasn't just about me, Mrs. Chen declared with unwavering determination. It was about every family struggling to stay together, every parent fighting for a better future for their children. Her words resonated with countless European families, transforming her battle into a symbol of hope and resilience. The Chen versus Home Secretary case became a rallying cry for immigrant families navigating the intricate web of European citizenship laws. Its outcome holding the potential to rewrite the rules of belonging in a globalized world. The idea formed from the case was the introduction of an easier way to immigrate to any member of the EU. There's also something called birth tourism. Yeah, expectant mothers can travel to another country to gain birthright citizenship so their children can benefit from it when they're older. Countries like the United States and Canada have established industries to cater to wealthier mothers in lower to middle-income countries like China, Turkey, and even Russia. Some statistics share that tens of thousands of babies in Canada are born from birth tourists. However, it's important to note to all the viewers that not everyone can get citizenship with this method. Until now, one country that gives citizenship in no time is Argentina. That might change as well, ever since Russian women started to migrate there after Russia attacked Ukraine. For the story of Mrs. Lavette Chen and Catherine, it was pure ecstasy. They returned to China to be with her family. Later, the family also moved to the United States. The last piece of information was that Catherine was finishing college and was considering a career in medicine. The story of Catherine and her mother, the tiny spark that ignited a legal revolution, becomes a beacon of hope for countless families seeking a better future. It started as a worried parent trying to secure her unborn child's future, but it helped take a giant leap forward for a more inclusive world.